Good day to you. Good day to you. We interrupt your regularly scheduled, unexamined life to bring you this. Um, Today, I was just listening to the history of philosophy. I try to do that as often as I can because I always notice I always forget something within it. Like, hopefully, if I can remember, if I can keep my thoughts in order. I wanted to discuss today three different topics. Um, I wanted to discuss the notion that the notion of tribalism, and how it is said that that is one of our instincts, that we are fundamentally wired to basically be against each other and to demarcate in groups based on race or tribe. So I guess that would be nationality and town and whatsoever. I wanted to discuss that because I don't think that there's something about that sounds wrong to me. The other notion I wanted to discuss was um, the problem with philosophy. I wanted to discuss philosophy, what it is, the problem with it, um, why it isn't why it isn't as effective as it could be, and why it prevents more people. Why aren't more people engaged in philosophy? Um, Even though that basically, since we all have minds, we all should be. We all are basically philosophers in one way or another. The other topic I wanted to touch on was, okay, so we got tribalism, we got what's wrong with philosophy. What else did I have a problem with? Oh, I didn't even have a problem with someone on the third topic. The third topic, I just wanted to talk about motion, discuss something about motion that I noticed. Um, in fact, since that's the one that I'm most likely to forget, we'll start there first. If you guys are familiar with the philosopher Thales, he was the guy who first said that time cannot be one continuous stream, that it is intermittent somehow. His student Zeno came behind him and proposed a paradox that, in fact, he came up with a couple of paradoxes that demonstrated his teacher Thales' point. Now, the first one he put forth was about how you can look up and down, you can go up and down the road, but you're on the same road. That was the first thing he was noticing about time. That basically the road's already there. All we're doing is going either up or down it, and that the road being time. So that was the first one that I found very interesting, especially from a guy from nearly 2,000 years ago, if not more, coming up with something like that, just straight from his mind and no technology. Another one I thought that he put forth was the fact that in order for me to take a step towards you, just one step towards you, for us to get from any point A to point B, we must first go halfway. We must first get there halfway, at least halfway there. And then he said, before you can even get to that halfway point, you have to get halfway to the halfway point. And then he said, before you can get to that halfway point, you got to get halfway to that halfway of that halfway point, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. And what you end up with is you never take a step. You never actually take a step. So when I heard that, I found that like awesome. First off, that was such, like, you know how Christians talk about miracles? That was like an endorphin release in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so profound. How can we never take a step? So then I thought to myself this morning while I was listening to them discussing that, I said to myself, wait a minute. Remember, Jason, because that's what I do. I talk to myself. I said, remember, Jason, life is a contradiction. It seems to be half inverted. There's opposites. There's opposition. Remember, life's about conflict. This challenge of life experience. The overall construct of life experience is about conflict. That's the main theme that's going on in the administration or administering of the game itself, of the challenge of life itself, is conflict. So while I was thinking about that, I thought to myself, wait a minute. Well, then that would mean that not only is there motion, but no motion is also, they're both just extremes on the same road. They're just two different ends of the same road. If I can borrow an example from Zeno for a minute. So once I looked at it that way, that on one end you had motion at its fastest rates, at its fastest speeds, let's call it the speed of light. And on the other end, you had no motion, but they were a part of the same line of code, if you will. So then I thought to myself, then that would mean that while there is time, while there is motion, there also at the same time is no time. There's also no motion, meaning that like when you're playing one of those video games where the character is always in the center of the screen, but the screen itself, the graphics on the screen, are always moving around the character, so it gives the illusion that the character is also moving along those lines on the screen, but it never really moves from the middle of the screen. That's the same thing that's Thales' example put in my mind, because we're basically never taking a step, because you can never actually do so mathematically. Then also, that would also mean be the same every motion. I am not actually raising my arm because to first raise my arm all the way, I would first at least have to do it halfway, and then half of that and half of that. For me to speak, for me to open my mouth and speak to you, I would first have to open it halfway. My voice would have to first reach halfway in its projection. You see what I mean? Everything, every motion for the wind, you know what I mean? It has to first reach halfway. Every motion is basically, you can apply Zeno's example to every part of motion, and you'll come to realize that on one half, remember, life's a double standard. That's the conflict. On one side of it, you have that there is motion. You have all these multiple motions that general relativity describes, where time is going in numerous directions. On the other side of it, you have that there is no motion whatsoever, that we are absolutely still, and that even in that non-motion, it is still to be considered as motion, just another extreme of it. All right, so, the Thales example that I wanted to touch on. Now I want to touch on tribalism. Tribalism, I was watching a video, and it was talking about how, and this was like a physicist or one of those real top Ivy League educated dudes, or gentlemen, excuse me. He was there saying how Science has found 12 instincts, 6 negative, 6 positive. He didn't, but of course, immediately that made me think of the 12 disciples, 12 tribes. That made me thinking of the significance of the number 12, 12 months in the year. But to get back to this, he said that there were 12 instincts, and one of those instincts, he said, was tribalism. That human beings have a natural instinct of tribalism. Now, let me tell you something. I don't want to fully dispute that, because maybe there is something in our hard wiring, in our default settings that we come with, where we feel we have to take sides in something, in a situation or a scenario. Maybe we are out of out of survival. We're wired to survive. That's what I'll say on that. Now, in terms of what's wrong with that notion that tribalism is instinctive, I've got big problems with that. Excuse me. I've got big problems with that very notion. How can that be? How can tribalism be instinctive? When I think of an instinct, I have an instinct to think. I have an instinct to breathe. I have an instinct to be in the company of others. I don't have an instinct to be tribal. That's not my instinct. Because when I think of tribalism, that's a choice. That's an option. That's something that someone decides to be. If someone wants to say, I want to be in the social company of a group of people that look like myself in terms of skin color, that's not being tribal in my mind. That's being preferential. That's a preference. So if we want to say that an instinct of human beings is to be preferential, that is something I can be on board with more. Because remember, every creature is hardwired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So the notion of each creature being preferential would follow along that direct that default and foundation of fundamental default code in our mind of seeking pleasure and avoiding. Yes, preferential, that follows that. Preferential pleasure, or it follows it from the word pleasure. But to say tribal, that to me is only to support and bolster and buttress the false notion of racism, which I've already got a video why the alt-right is wrong that leaves nothing but holes in that boat. But if you'd like me to, since I think in this video I just need to hit a couple points on that, why tribalism itself is just a false notion. And please, I am more than willing to defend my beliefs against anyone who wishes to come forward and would like to discuss this issue of any consequence, because this is one of the major issues to me that is destroying society, human society. Let me tell you what the notion of tribalism has done. The notion of tribalism has not only put black against white, Republican against Democrat, man against woman, boy against girl, Giants fan against Eagles fan, whatever, Catholic against Protestant, whatever division you can possibly think of. This is what the notion of tribalism has done. But it's like we've forgotten about the notion of divide and conquer. That's called a strategy being used by the state to support, bolster, and buttress their mandates of control and maintaining control. That's what, to me, tribalism makes more sense that it follows from. The notion of tribalism, it follows more from the state, the nation state trying to control the ruling class, trying to control the lower classes, which, none of us are lower class. We're all equal. These people weren't born with a better brain than the rest of us. So I don't know why they get to call themselves upper class or elite, because I'm looking at all their ideas and there's nothing elite about them. That's the reason why I make these videos, because someone had to look at life and say to themselves, wait a minute, why does nothing make sense? So when it comes to tribalism, let's go specifics on this. If there was really such a thing as tribalism, why do white people adopt black kids? Are they in the same tribe? If there was such a thing as tribalism, why would did that child grow up, that adopted child, black child that was adopted and raised by this tribal white couple, did this child grow up and hate these people in the home instinctively because it realizes it's not from the same tribe? Do they have a contentious relationship all the time? What about immediately when the child is presented with the immediate choice of freedom at 18? Do they immediately take it because they feel a natural tribal instinct to go link up and connect with not only their birth family, but maybe a group of their ethnicity, their ethnic background? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. We all know these things aren't true. We all know that's not true. There's plenty of kids out there that are raised by white parents, plenty of black kids that have been adopted by white parents that go on to have a loving, close relationship up until all are dead and no longer on the earth. So how does tribalism work in that situation? Sound like I just gave an example of preference. Now, another thing about tribalism. If there was tribalism, whites would never adopt any of black culture, what's called cultural appropriation, which I don't believe in such a thing. What it comes down to is if people hang around each other long enough, everyone is going to influence each other. That's the reason why blacks use white words. Even on some level they were forced to, you know what I mean? But at this point, there's still words that are coming out of the white community that blacks use without the use of slavery or some kind of force. And then you have words that come out of the black community that whites use. And excuse me, when I say those words, black community and white community, make sure that you're quotation marks around them, because we know those things really are trivialities that really basically, they're so superficial, they essentially don't exist. They're on that line of reality. They essentially don't exist, because how much of your body, how much of a percentage in thickness is your going all the way down to the bone, from skin to the bone? How thick is your skin compared to, like, how about my body? Like, we're what we do. We're not what we look like. That's only a fractional identifier. That's only one of the things that identify. We go off fingerprints, we go off DNA, we go off appearance, but fundamentally, you are what you do. And I'll give you a case in point. Let's take two racist white guys. Two of the most racist white guys you could think of. Think of the two most racist white guys you could think of. Do you know what I know about these two guys? If both of them are known as thieves to each other, they will not hang with each other by leaving things that they value around each other. You know why? Because regardless of their skin color, they know that this is a person that I can't trust, because I know that that person is a thief, that that person engages in habitual stealing. You see, they're judging each other based on what they are, their actions, their character, not on skin color. Another thing to to refute tribalism is the fact that if there was really such a thing, there wouldn't ever be whites oppressing other whites. And there would never be blacks oppressing other blacks if tribalism was real. Let's take, for instance, before there was ever such a thing as the white race. Before, what is it, the 1500s, 1700s, somewhere around there, because it's that there were there's been white people. Before that, what they were Europeans. That's what you guys were. That's what they regarded the people who look their pigment at. And in Europe, it was people from England, people from Ireland, people from France, people from Germany, people from Norway, etc. Italy, everyone was at war with each other. You know what I mean? There was no this notion of tribalism, this thing where it's and because even within, like, let's take for instance Scotland, there were wars in fighting with each other. So this tribalism, when we talk about tribalism, I don't understand what we mean by tribalism. It's all about preferences. If you grow up in a group, of course you're going to defend that group because that's out of bonding with that group. That's just a natural instinct to bond. If a group of yellow people, or let's say magenta. Let's use a color that we know this is possible because the Chinese can be considered, some people consider it as yellow, or yellow tone. Excuse me. If a group of magenta colored people raised me and were loving to me, of course I am going to feel in a way that I owe a life debt to these people. So I'm going to defend them if I hear them being insulted or see them physically attacked. That's not tribalism. That's called bonding. That's my preference. You see what I'm saying? So just don't get the whole notion of tribalism. Like in Africa, weren't there, who was Shaka Zulu warring with all those years? You know what I mean? Were they all tribe? Like even today, if we look at the country, how much tribalism you see going on? Was Charlottesville tribalism? Do we call the black on black crime in the neighborhoods tribalism? Like, no. Everyone is out for self in those situations. You see what I'm saying? Like, so especially under a capitalistic system, it's designed for everyone to be out for themselves. So let's chill with the notion of tribalism. At best, it is preference. Does that make sense? And again, I welcome any comments or dialectic on this on that particular subject. Now, the last subject I wanted to touch on was, you can tell me this is the one I forget. The one I thought was, all right, we hit on time and why movement really doesn't happen and happens at the same time. The double standard of life, it being the conflict and opposition. And we just hit on why tribalism isn't real. Oh, here it is. This is the one. My problem with philosophy. First, I just have issues with philosophy. I love it, but at the same time, I hate it. And let me go first what is philosophy, because a lot of people hear the word and become intimidated by it, and that's not by. Remember, the powers that be want you to be high level consumers, so there's always been a war on intelligence. There's always been a war on intellect. They just give the appearance that they support it. But if you really look at history, book burnings, Inquisition, what was that, my man Bruno, that got for writing reason, facts, and I forgot the book he wrote, but he was following the line of Galileo and Copernicus, and saying things about how life is factual and reason there is needed to support everything, but instead you had, the church and the Spanish Inquisition that was burning books, killing anyone who heresy against the church, saying that things were not miraculous and that things were not from ooh. So then you have, even to this day, if no one wants to be a Mr. Know-it-all, everyone hates the Mr. Know-it-all, and the reason why that is because you're encouraged to hate the Mr. Know-it-all, and that also, by hating Mr. Know-it-all, any person that is smart, we automatically are saying that it's better. We prefer if you're stupid. We prefer if it's better. You're more acceptable in society if you know very little. Is that not what we're saying? We're basically suggesting, by saying that we hate know-it-alls, people that know it all or know a lot, we are basically saying that it is better if everyone knows a little. You're already self-defeating yourself. Another example is, if you notice, any movie or any interview, you never see the smart person being hailed as brave, courageous, heroic. It's never that. It's always a person that's just smart at what they do, and they're always taking orders. They're always a flake. They're anything but the appealing being, character that appeals to one to be. So you have to ask yourself, why is that? Is that all characteristic? Is that all coincidence? That since the burning of libraries in Alexandria all the way up to today, there's just always been a constant attack on intellect? So you know how I feel about coincidences. They're due to logical processes, hence no coincidences. So I thought on this. I thought to myself, why would this be? Why would there be such an attack on intellect? Why wouldn't the government, why wouldn't the ruling class want the masses to be smart? First off, another thing, check our school system. What's that? What are we ranked in science and mathematics again? What's the reading level of most American adults? What's that? A little bit above the 8th grade level? So if you think I'm wrong about us being smart, but remember, the worst thing in the world is someone who's stupid that doesn't realize it. That's the worst type of human being in the world, is someone who is not intellectual and is convinced that they are intellectual. That's the reason why you have the society we have, where everyone is just talking and no one has to back up what they have to say. No one is capable of defending what they have to say, because we're allowed to say that we believe with our own beliefs. So no one is ever having to be accountable for the words that they say. Now tell me, is that really healthy for an intelligent species? But anyway, continuing on with philosophy, which this does play into it. What's wrong with philosophy? What is philosophy? Some people say it's not just thinking, it's thinking, but it's not just thinking of, oh, what do I want to eat today? Or I feel like, oh, I'm thirsty, I need something to drink. What do I want to drink? How do I feel like getting dressed? What's my hair? How should I do my hair today? Philosophy is more than that. Philosophy is shallows. Gossip, small talk, those are the shallows of conversation. Those are what I call throwaway conversation. It's really a waste of time. You know what I mean? Those things have nothing to do, no bearings on life. There's no value in it, in those type of conversations whatsoever. Philosophy goes deeper. It goes out into the deep. it goes out into that section beyond the lines in the pool, where beyond the 5 foot line. You know what I mean? In that dark part of the water in your mind, in life, that questions everything. Now, but originally it's supposed to be. That's how you get religion. That's how you get philosophy. Because if you think of religion, religion is really at its most raw. Take all the societal mandates, the cultural reinforcement. Take away those false parts of religion. And religion, if you look at it, are a group of people sat around and tried to think of and explain why all the phenomena in life. They were trying to explain all that was going on around. So to me, religion is like the first science. That's how I view religion. I think I heard Christopher Hitchens say that once before too. The great Christopher, by the way, a great sophist. I won't say he was a thinker, but he was a great sophist. Man, what a vocabulary that guy has, and his ability to argue. I don't know about whether he was profound. I wouldn't call him profound, but he was a great sophist. But he does a great piece on Mother Teresa and against religion. I will give those two. I've found Hitchens to be genius at, as well as his vocabulary. I was very impressed with. So R.I.P. to the great Christopher Hitchens. But so to religion is really, if you think about it, the first science, and out of that you get philosophy, which I don't know if I'm going to say out of religion comes philosophy, the formal version of philosophy. Because if you think about it, even before religion, what have humans been doing? We're born thinkers. We're born thinkers. Look at your child. Look at a little baby go about its business as you put it on the ground. A baby that can crawl. We're born thinkers. We're born considering things. That child, the moment it can crawl, even before that, a child is already considering things. So we're born thinkers. So prior to formal religion, the books and doctrines that we have today, such as the Bible and the Quran or Quran, these things, or the Buddhist enlightenment, steps of enlightenment, or Confucianism, you have, prior to those things, you have human beings that were thinking. So they were already philosophizing, but officially, philosophy follows religion, follows out of religion. Then out of philosophy, you get hard science, you get epistemology. What's up, Skiz? I was having a hard time with that word, talking to Skiz the other day. So I'm so happy proud of myself that I just fit that with no problem. But you have, is it epistemology or empiricism, where you need hypothesis, where science requires hypothesis and observation. That's Sir Francis Bacon and bringing the foundation of setting a new foundation for science, for how things should be discovered, more than just us using hypothetical scenarios or thought experiments and theory to explain everything. The science went on to give a more hard proof. Basically said, this is hard proof. This is our hard copy. So it's left philosophy in a way, not where they're thinking, they're more like chasing after science. Well, I said, forget all this. You look at it all. After I read David Hume's Skepticism of Science, and then I read Karl Popper's Skepticism on Science, and how he had to set the new foundation for it, and how truths had to be falsified, I thought to myself, wait a minute. I also saw a part that said that saw something. Oh, I forgot this gentleman's name. I am so ashamed of myself for forgetting this gentleman's name because he was a genius. The guy who said that all of our disciplines, science, math, all of those are based on axioms, at least a set of axioms that we can't prove. All of them, anyone you want to think of. So basically, all of these things are hanging on unprovable truths, but it's because they make sense in theory why we're hanging on to the axiom as the parallel lines never connecting. No one needs to draw it out for you. You just already know in your mind that two parallel lines will never connect, intersect, excuse me. Those type of axioms. So once I realized that, I said, okay, everyone talks real big, but when I take into consideration the fact that every generation of human being was born with a blank slate, then that means we really have no one really knows what they're talking about. Everyone speaks as if they know what they're talking about, like they're figures of authority. That's how your parents talk to you. But now that you look back at it, they really never knew what they were talking about. They didn't know about the economy, certainly, did they? You know what I mean? They really don't know what's going on with religion. If you think about it, it's the best guess. Ask a question. They'll tell you to have faith. That's not an answer. You look out the window, you look at yourself, you look at everything that's going on, and you see logic. You see logic. You're not praying to talk to someone from a distance. No, you pick up the phone and you call someone based on the logic of science bringing you that technology of a phone. You see what I'm saying? Like, we need to stop. That's why, in my thinking, called axial thought, we strip down all of the froth. We get rid of all the miracles and all of the superstitions and all the nationality and all the gender and all the trivialities. And we look at life at its most fundamental level. What is going on here? What do you see here? You take away all of the illusory components, all of the entertainment, all of the small talk, you know what I mean? All that throwaway dialogue. What is the narrative that you see? Is there a story that's being told here? Is there a picture that forms? And yes, there is one. But getting back to this, yes, and specifically in this terms of philosophy, it's that first, society has no respect for intelligence. Being that the state wants to, their mandate is to control and maintain control. Of course they don't want to tell you the truth. They have no desire to. They'll put up the appearance to, but the truth is, no doubt about it, going to be in conflict with what they're saying. Let me tell you something here, real quick. I'll tell you what's wrong already. Let me tell you what's wrong. You know how we got a system of capitalism and how it's based on difference, and how we say in nature everything's based on difference? First off, no, it's not. It has the appearance of difference. But if you think of it, everything is equal. We're all equal components of the cosmos. First off, another reason why everything's equal and level is that there's something called opportunity cost. For me or you to get an advantage, say if you find you're walking down the street one day and you find $100. Was that free? There is nothing for free because it wasn't free. It was at the cost of whoever lost it. The same thing with any gain that you can think of in life. For you to have gotten that gain, someone had to lose or something had to lose it. You see what I'm saying? For us to, when we spend money, our bank account goes lower. When we drive the car, the gas tank gets lower. You see what I'm saying? There's a cost benefit, opportunity cost, opportunity benefit to everything. You're giving up something when you choose to go otherwise. When you choose to go another option, another route. And that includes What examples do I want to go with there? When I say give and take, that's the whole part of life where they tell you life's about give and take. You got to give in order to get. That is how life is. There is nothing that's free. It only appears to you that you are getting something for free. This is also another thing where it comes to where they say the notion of no good deed goes unpunished. We need to get rid of that. We need to get rid of that because it goes against the thing of opportunity cost. It's no good deed goes unrewarded because fundamentally that's what life's about based on the balance that we're talking about. Now let's go back to the opportunity cost and tie that back in. Now I know equilibrium is usually spoken about in terms of chemical reactions. But when I look at, for me, in my thought of, in my training of thought, equilibrium is not just chemical reactions. Equilibrium is opportunity cost. It's what opportunity cost follows from. The very fact that if I take something, in any action that I do, any gain that I get, whether it's if I dig a hole in the ground, the dirt is displaced and it's got to go somewhere. I drink water out of the glass, the water in the glass goes lower, gets lower, depending on how much of it I drink. I decide to consume at that moment. When I take those things into consideration, that means life is based on an equilibrium in the first place, just for there to be opportunity cost. Is so? Life had to start out equal. And all it does when you do opportunity cost, when you get a gain, that equilibrium just resets. But it doesn't change from the fundamental before any of us took anything, gained anything. The fact that life was already equal. There's already I call it it's to me that's what the horizon is a clue of. When I look at the horizon, I always think to myself, man, what does the horizon mean? Why is there this line? I thought nature doesn't deal in straight lines, but what is that horizon? That's a straight line. And to me, it's that line of conflict. It's that line of neutrality that lies in between the conflict of experience, of overall life experience, of the game, of the challenge of life experience. That's what the horizon's a clue to. It's that symbolic line where everything's working together. It's that where everything affects each other. Okay, now getting back to philosophy. And now that establishes why everything's equal. Now getting back to you and philosophy and why everything being equal. What qualifies you as a human being? Is it the fact that is it your religion? Is it your hairstyle? Is it your what qualifies you as a human being? What qualifies me as a human being? What qualifies you as a human being? Do you know? This thing we have in between our ears and our skull, our minds, the capabilities of our minds, as the hands, body to express those capabilities, express those thoughts in our imaginations and our ideas, but it's our minds. We're all geniuses. On some level, if you think about it, everyone's a genius at something, even with the fact that adult society has already corrupted your brain and rendered you this cultural representative that you live as now. You're not even yourself. And you already know it. You're not even yourself. You're what other people want you to be. You haven't been yourself since you were like a young child. Hopefully one day you have the bravery to find yourself again instead of worried about other people who themselves aren't themselves. They don't even know themselves. But these are the people that you've taken influence from. You've inherited their ideas, taken their religion. You've inherited their beliefs. Oh, well, my mom told me to do this, so I'm going to do it this way. No. Listen, my mom made me a Christian. And even then, I I had this thing called curiosity in my head, so I kept asking questions. Listen, we weren't born in life to be robots. We were born in life to be existential, to think. We have choice. We have choice. And you would just think every country, people would exercise freedom, but no, what we mostly do is we exercise mimicry. We're constantly mimicking each other. Getting back to philosophy and my problem with philosophy. So that's first, you're a genius. So life's equal and you're a genius. By nature, you're a genius. Nature endowed you with the government can't take that brain from you. It can fool your brain. It can agitate your brain, but that brain is still in your head. All you have to do is free it, these cultural imprisoning thoughts, and you get to see life for what it really is. Because don't forget, even the government bows down to nature. Everything follows the laws of nature. That the government tell nature what to do. Then us saying that we conquer nature is just our way of intimidating the people, of giving them that impression of, oh man, well if they can control it, then I better fall in line and just go along with whatever stupidity they come up with. Just because they're in positions of power does not make these people smart. If anything, being so drunk with power confuses them and makes them enact silly ideas all off of on the basis of hubris. Look at the policies being enacted. What do you see? You know what I mean? I'll tell you right now, the 16 years I've been alive, I was telling my friend the other day, what have presidents done? What has Congress and the president done in the last 16 years? Like, how can we say we're a looking society when we don't do any moving at all? We go forward, backward, forward, backward, 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 forward, forward. Like, there's no progress really being made, not socially anyway. And that's the reason why the society that we have. But in any case, back to philosophy. My problem with philosophy, first off, we are all capable. Why I was saying that we're all geniuses is to bring to your attention that we're all capable of philosophy. We're all capable of deep thinking, of deeper thinking, of an exam. We're all capable of it. We're all capable of coming up with the next big idea. We're all capable of genius because we're innately capable of that. What it is adult society gets its hands on you, and it needs you to be a good little conformist consumer. So that's what it's focused on you being. And that's the reason why it tells you to be emotional, because we need emotional people in order to be impulsive to buy things. And that's the reason why we have an emotional society, because we have a bunch of, we manufacture impulsivity. We manufacture impulsivity. That's what we are. We're breeding livestock. We can call ourselves human beings, but let's look at it from a government. We're livestock. The population is livestock. Their job is to make sure that they're keeping that livestock stocked. And the ones that are alive, keeping those ones occupied, engaged in supporting the economy. And how do you support the economy? By being a high levels consumer, not by being a brain, not by being a natural endowed genius that you are. So to me, is that intuitive or intuitive to our natural state? Do we want to be the highest level of human being, or do we want to be the highest level of consumer? Because look around in society, listen to people talk, listen to their conversations. Is it intelligent people? Do you see intellect? Can you attribute something to an intellect there? To an intelligent species? Because I'm lost. And once again, I invite anyone from Ivy League on the way down to of any other thinker, lower status thinker, considered lower status thinker. If you can hold a conversation and defend your ideas with logic and reason and facts, I'm more than welcome it, because I really am confused. I'm questioning things, and I'm being forced to have to come up with my own answer. So if you have better reasoning on subjects that I'm discussing, please, by all means, I welcome it. Going back on philosophy again. The problem with me and the dialectic, my problem with the dialectic is, and I appreciate the conversation because we need competitive conversation to come to a truth. If the intent is to come to a truth, if the intent is to find the ultimate truth within the topic that we are discussing, that is the very point of meaningful conversation. So we approach conversations as debate. Oh, we're just going to hold our positions. No, we should approach conversations of we're trying to meet to find the truth. Meaning, there's a possibility that I can be wrong, at least in part, and there's a possibility that you can be wrong, at least in part. And let's discuss our ideas, what we both thought of or found out, and see what we can make sense, what actually makes sense here. That's it. But because we are in a society where everyone needs to get credit, everyone needs to, oh, it's me, me, me. Well, no, listen, I hate to tell you, you're an individual member of a social species. Fundamentally, no one gets credit for anything. Everything's already, remember, we're in a challenge, we're in a game, already done, extolled, EXTOL. I've already extolled that the cosmos and all life forms, including mine, are fundamentally technologies. So any ideas that we have, they've already been here. They're already here. Time itself, like the road that I was with the Zeno example. Oh, I hope that's not Parmenides. Is it Parmenides? I'm going to say it's Zeno. The road, no matter what, you can look up and down the road, you're still on the same road. You're still on the road. That is one I want to say is, lose my place. Philosophy, Zeno, how does that relate to? Oh, I'll come back to that. Back to my problem with philosophy. There's too much criticizing of each other. They spend too much time critiquing each other, and not enough time focused on wonder. There's not enough questioning on why are there leaves? Why are there animals? Why are there races? Why is there conflict? Why do we have curiosity? Why do we feel boredom? There's too much trying to be, there's like a culture to formal philosophy, and they're locked in, they're too pigeonholed into it. They have to speak these long 5-syllable words, ontology, epistemology, empiricism, and all of these multi-syllable words that are so vague and obtuse in themselves, or excuse me, not obtuse, but vague and obscure in themselves, that the meaning of what one is saying and lost in all of these, in these patched together connections of pompous language. It's more as if they're not trying to get the reader or anyone to follow behind them to understand what they're saying, but instead to argue over what they're saying. They're just seeking to be more profound in how they sound than in actual ideas. I've always asked myself, they say that philosophy is to learn how to die, is to learn how to live, is to put forth ideas. My thing is, why isn't philosophy about being correct? Why isn't philosophy about being right? Why not a mandate in philosophy? It's one thing to think, but how about we mandate that we have the correct thought, or we're striving to have the correct thought? Instead, everyone have your own beliefs, entitled to your own beliefs, extends to philosophy too. And that's the reason why you have these geniuses that came up with such great ideas on one part, come up with these nonsensical ideas in another part. They focus too much on trying to outdo, one up. It's a one-upmanship. The previous philosopher, the current challenging philosopher. It's more competitor, and they're more trying to plant a flag of this is my position, even if it's wrong. And I realize that life hits it with wrongness. I have to stick with it. That's the reason why. Then you give it these names, these titles. Oh, this is Cartesian, and this is the static method, and this is. You see what I'm saying? We're patenting all these different. They patent all their different ideas. And really, those ideas are for all of us. Those are shared ideas. We're not trying to filter through the quality of the information or quality of anything. That we're just we're just moving around. It's kind of like how they slosh money around in the Wall Street when there's like 0% interest rate. There's like, or negative interest rates, excuse me. Money just sloshing around. There's really no gains being made. And that's the same thing with philosophy, the dialectic with philosophy. It could be a great thing if they actually were trying to meet at a truth, if they were competing in ideas to come to a truth, but instead, no. What we have is pompous behavior, immature, really. It's better than you, na. That's what, if you go back and read all the way from Thales, all the way up to Derrida, to today, the postmodern, the postmodernist of today, or whatever they're calling themselves these days. That's what you see is an immature conversation of barely any ideas getting done. The best ideas are lost. They're not implemented in society. Some of them are, but on the overall, they've been warped to a way that is adverse to the well-being, in a way that is adverse to the well-being of the population. We're not being taught thinkers. Our religions don't teach you to be thinkers. Our economy doesn't teach you to be thinkers. How many of you even understand the value of money? What the value of money is, how the value of money is determined. I guarantee you half the people watching this video right now do not know what the actual value of money is, how it is determined. I guarantee you that. They don't even know how the Federal Reserve works, interest rates and all those things. And that's the economy that you participate in. Same religion, or excuse me, just like the economy. Let me connect the two here. The invisible hand. Have faith. Well, I'll leave. See what I'm saying? Like, we're thinkers. If society is going to profess that we are a species of intelligent beings, hold yourself to it. Hold yourself to it. Because we've been given a brain for a reason. Do not seek just profound. Seek to be correct. We cannot just all be, everyone cannot, we have enough people going around speaking beliefs. Something that they don't have to prove. Tell them to Google it, they'll tell you I don't have to Google it. You know what I mean? They just want to talk. They just want to talk because, for talking's sake, because they have a pair of lips, because they have a voice box. Should that be the conduct of an intelligent species? And then here's another question. Should an intelligent species heavily traffic in truth or in beliefs? Just in case it breaks up, because some of these videos, I notice the voice sometimes break up. So I want to make sure this question isn't lost. I'll leave you with this. Should an intelligent species traffic in truth or aspire to truth sincerely? Should it do what we currently do and have always done since the biblical times, basically, up until current today, which means it's continuing today? Should we just let everyone believe what they want to, live going with beliefs? Don't forget, the majority of the country reads at like a ninth grade level. Reads at a ninth grade level. 40th in math and science. Most of us don't read. If we text, and we know the conversations going on there, a lot of throwaway dialogue. You know what I mean? Like, if you fill your mind with stupidity, what's going to come out of your mouth is stupidity. What's going to come out of your conscious is stupidity. Wake up. Become alert. You're a genius. Awaken yourself to it. Because that is the reality of the situation. And we don't have much time left. This is a information problem with a limited time to do it in. This game will end at some point, and that point is not far off in the distant future. You have human beings have had it sweet for a long time now. Look at what we built up to. And the one thing we all know about life, there's reward and there's consequence. And from when I look out that window, sitting in the most wealthiest country, powerful country on the planet, I see a lot of waste. Nature is not going to let us get away with that. The game is not going to let us get away with that. Remember, there is no coincidence. Chaos is not really chaos. Chaos is only an order that we do not understand. Is no we are innately purposed to try to bring order to chaos, to bring to the disorder of chaos. That's what we're all tasked to do. That's what you see even an addict. An addict, when you're doing drugs, they're trying to bring order to their chaos. That's their way of bringing order to their chaos. It might be seen to you as a counterintuitive way to bring order to their chaos, but that's what they are attempting to do. When you see an overweight person eating voraciously, am I saying the right word there? Voracity. Aggressively. Let's go with aggressively on that one, because I'm not sure if that's the truthfulness. Am I right on that one? Voraciously. Voracious. When you see someone eating aggressively, when you see an overweight person, obese person eating aggressively, they're doing this. They're doing this because they have been. This is their comfort. That's their comfort zone. So you've just got to be more aware of yourself. Be aware of what you're doing. Like, oh my gosh, I hear the word nigga so much. It's like I'm just wondering, like, are they aware of themselves? Like, do you know any other word? I hear people cuss so much. It's like, do you know there are other words out there? Fuck cannot substitute every word. Shit cannot substitute every word. And a combination of the two, or maybe some other superlative to add to it, does not render you human. Either stop pretending like that you should be someone that's worth listening to, or stop speaking. But you just, for the sake of talking, just talk. There's a consequence coming. Either it's going to be after death, or I'd imagine, like me, it's while I'm alive. That's what motivated me to even examine life in the first place, life experience in the first place, what was going on. Oh wow, have we been on for an hour? All right, We've been on for an hour. I think we've covered good grounds on that. So philosophy, to wrap up, philosophy, we're all philosophers, we're all geniuses, deeper than throwaway dialogue. Think on conversations, only engage in conversations that drive the narrative of life, which is how to overcome problems. That's what your mind is. Your mind is a problem-solving tool. And it just so happens, coincidence, we're on a problematic platform called Earth, called life experience. The two together, put 2 and 2 together, equals game, equals challenge. You better get up for it, because whether you be in it or not, we're in it. And there's no getting out of it. So putting it off, you will have to. What happens with anything else that you put off? It metastasizes, builds up on you. Next thing you know, you got like some big pussy white blood cell explosion going on. Anyway, don't let that happen to you in your real life, in your ultimate intrinsic life. Life is an opportunity, and an opportunity for us to overcome it. Let's challenge ourselves, challenge yourself, overcome it. I challenge you to learn the real you. Be more than the cultural representative. You're not just American. What is that? What is that? Do you know what that flag means without anyone to worship it? It means nothing. Do you know what a country is without people to populate it? It's not a country. It's just a piece of land. Do you know what a government is without people to govern? Not even a government. Do you know what money is without people to spend it? Not even wasted paper. See what I mean? It's all fraud. Religion without people to listen to it is just noise. And it's even with people listening to it, it's noise. If someone cannot back up what they say, defend what they say, and support what they say, just what they say in logic, fact, and reason, get them out of your life. Because that's what nature, that's what the maker, parentheses S, because there's more than one of them, intended this for. Life has lessons in it. Nature is a classroom. We have the minds. We are in our life experience is for learning. That's the reason why you have senses, and why you have a memory. That you can go back and access those files and say, hey, what happened before in this situation? What's best of that to do now? It's about choices. You're given each moment is the possibility of alternatives. It's a list of, it's your options menu in the game. Choose wisely. Choose to do things of value. Things that are of sincere value to yourself, not materialistic value. Make yourself smarter. That's why you got a brain. Make yourself more moral. We're of a social species. If you lived by yourself, if there were no other human beings on the planet, that would be fine. You could do what you want to do. But there are other human beings on the planet. You need to live in a way that is considerate of that. That's the reason why, to this day, they try to dodge, dip, duck, and dive away from the notion that there is a moral foundation. Of course there has to be a moral foundation. How else does any social species get along, including ants and bees and lions? Of course there's a moral foundation. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like they make things sound like it's so complicated and complex, but your subconscious on its own rationalizes and realizes all on its own. Try it. I'm not the only one born with a brain. And the scientists and religion only put themselves in position of authority. They are only illusory figures of authority. I welcome either any physicist, any theologist would like to discuss defend their notions that there is no God, like atheism and agnosticism, and that there's a Jesus Christ that's waiting to come down without his reindeer, the Easter Bunny, werewolves, any crazy beliefs, any beliefs. If you feel like your belief really is the truth, because everyone's allowed to call this stuff truth, and I say that you're lying. I say it's illusion, it's all mythology, and that's where it belongs. That's the category that it belongs in. Yes, you can still believe whatever you want to believe, but you cannot go around calling it the truth, because then you're being disingenuous. You're being intellectually disingenuous, and that to me is like a mass murderer. Because you know how impressionable people are by nature. That's why there's marketing. That's why the dominant industry in this country, other than weapons, is marketing, advertising, because people are impressionable. So when you're going around telling these people that you are speaking the truth, and all you have to say when anyone asks you this question is, oh, you got to have faith. First off, you're not a thinker. Second off, that's like the easiest job to do in the world. I'm a pirateless. Hi, I'm a pirateless parrot. All I have to do is repeat someone else has already written, and they don't even have to make sense. And I'm aware they don't make sense, but I see how people react to them, so I'm going to go along with it and just say it anyway. So because it benefits me materially. Man, wait till equilibrium gets a hold of you. That's where karma from, baby. Nature's justice. Because there is a nature's justice. There is a scoring system going on in life. And it's not being kept by the government. It's not you're not being judged based on your net worth. Those are the superficial, artificial, appearance, delusional metrics. What's really going on here is, since we're all under the rules of nature, since we're all functioning within the rules of nature, nature is what's keeping the score. It is what we all live under. It is what we are birthed from and that we are a part of. That is the reason why you have choice. Choice and the evaluation of the actions of the living things is the fundamental reason for motion. Salute to the thinkers, which would be you, or you're capable of it. Challenge yourself. We're in a challenge. We're in a challenge. Challenge yourself.